Hello everyone, welcome back. As you can see, different location, but same old Sammy G. Today I've got another Sensei Q&A for you. This is the series where I answer the musical questions that you asked me on Instagram. If you want to jump around to any of these questions, I put up timestamps in the description. Before we get into it though, a quick word from the sponsor of today's video, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community that offers membership to something with real practical value. There are countless classes ranging across the entire spectrum, from the basics of DSLR photography, caring for your houseplants, to making French macaroons. These classes are designed for real life so that you can develop a new skill set in a reasonable amount of time without having to put everything else on hold. Now, let me tell you a little story about why I recommend the class Cocktail Secrets. Once upon a time, I was craving the alcohol version of lemon ice cream, so I had the bright idea to mix a drink with limoncello, whole milk, and vanilla vodka. The milk curdled, and it was truly disgusting. But I won't be making those kind of rookie mistakes anymore because I watched this class. You can too. Skillshare is incredibly affordable, costing less than $10 a month for an annual subscription. If you're looking to make 2020 a year where you develop some new skills, click the link in the description to get 2 free months of premium membership and explore your creativity. Anyways, let's get to it. To kick things off, Corey McEwen asks how to write lyrics without coming across as cringy or angsty. So before I start getting into some specific things you can work on, let me say this. I think you gotta write a lot of really bad songs before anything good comes out. I counted this once, and I put my heart and soul into something like 50 bad songs before I finally wrote something decent. It was another 30 or so later that another good one came out, and from there the good stuff started to happen more and more frequently. It was all those bad songs that I put a ton of effort into that helped me hone my craft and make it possible for me to write those few that I'm truly proud of. So write those cringy, angsty songs, get them out of the way, and the good ones will start coming in. Now I will tell you a few things you can work on to expedite this process. First of all, make an active effort to get better. Analyze lyrics of songs you like, do creative writing exercises, critique and have your lyrics critiqued. Second, identify the qualities that you feel to be cringy about your lyrics. I personally don't like when lyrics are unconversational. So when I'm writing, I'll often ask myself, would I say that in a conversation? If the answer is no, then I'll rewrite it. Which brings me to my third point, rewrite. Great songs are rarely written, but rather they are rewritten. When you first finish a song, that's your first draft, and now the real work begins. Tweak it, change it, and try different things until it's something you're really proud of. A very small fraction of songwriting is those moments of pure inspiration. The bulk of the work is done refining and polishing. Corey, hopefully all this is helpful. Next up, Jack Von Sider asks, can a guitar solo be great with only 2 to 4 notes as a solo? Absolutely yes, assuming that's what the song calls for. A great example of this is the Ramones' I Wanna Be Sedated, where the guitar solo is just the same note, repeated over and over and over again, and you know what, it's perfect for that song. Now situations like this are probably few and far between, but my number one rule of music is let the song dictate your musical choices. If a 2 or 4 note solo is really working, there is no need to change it. Ryan Hughes asks, how the F do you suspend a chord? Clearly Ryan has not taken my class on music theory, but that's okay, I'll explain this one here anyway. The most basic chords we come across are triads, and to make one of those, you take a note from the scale, make that your root note, which is the note that the chord is going to be built off of. You skip the next note in the scale and add the next, we call that one the third. Skip the 4th note, add the 5th note to your chord, that's called the 5th, play them all together, and you have a triad. To make that a suspended chord, you replace your 3rd with either of the notes you skipped. If you replace it with the lower one, then it's called a suspended 2nd, and if you replace it with the higher one, it's called the suspended 4th. Simply seeing sus like Gsus means it can be either a sus2 or sus4. And since you're removing the 3rd of the chord, which is the note that defines major or minor tonality, sus chords can replace most major or minor chords. There are some exceptions and variations to this, but this is the general principle. Moving on, we'll do another theory one here. Hardcore Soup asks, is it an A flat or a G sharp? The pitch of these 2 notes is exactly the same. In music, we call them enharmonic equivalents. So why or when would we use one or the other? The answer is a little bit long-winded, but generally when spelling scales or chords, you don't want to have 2 notes that use the same letter, as that would get a bit confusing. For example, the scale E flat major has the notes E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C, D, E flat. If I used a G sharp instead of an A flat here, I now have a G and a G sharp in my scale and no A. This is much harder to conceptualize than just using an A flat. And on top of that, if I use a G sharp, I also have sharps and flats in my scale, which again complicates matters. Let's look at another example. Say I wanted to play an F sharp natural minor. Those notes are F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp. In this case, the G sharp works because I already have the A natural in the scale. And we would never want to think of this scale as G flat natural minor instead of F sharp because that's an absolute mess. A natural minor starting on G flat is spelled G flat, A flat, B double flat, C flat, D flat, E double flat, F flat, G flat. That is unnecessarily confusing. It's much easier just to think of that as F sharp minor, even though they sound exactly the same. And next up, Yuri Hayak 34 asks, how important do you think the use of silence is in music? I would argue that the use of space is just as important as the notes you play. Space allows the music to breathe. It allows the audience to absorb what they heard. I think we process music much in the same way that we process language. And if a storyteller never uses any punctuation, it sounds like one big run-on sentence, and it's nearly impossible to follow them because before long you completely zone out. It's exhausting. I've only been talking like this for a couple seconds and I'm already completely bored. However, by leaving space and allowing your audience to digest what they've heard, they will be significantly more engaged. That doesn't mean you can't have longer sentences now and then, but by changing it up and sometimes letting your words sit in the air, that can have a pretty profound effect. All this applies to music as well. Here's a solo that I might consider a run-on solo versus one that uses space. I know which one I enjoy more, and the music I like typically incorporates a lot of space. And last for today, Yi Berry asks, why do I like my voice live but hate it in the studio? Well, when you play live, there are a number of elements that can make for a more forgiving atmosphere. Things are often very loud, so subtle issues with pitch or timbre can get hidden. The adrenaline pumping and the energy of the audience can often boost your perception of yourself, things like that. Whereas when you go into the studio, it's as if everything is suddenly under a microscope. It's a much less forgiving atmosphere, and any issues suddenly become much more apparent. Here's what I would recommend to help you deal with this. Record yourself as much as possible. Record your live performances to see if they really are as you perceive them, and remember to critique yourself for the sake of improvement, not just to get yourself down. Also, get a home studio set up and practice being in that kind of environment. The more you do this, the better you'll get all around. And lastly, before you do listen to yourself on studio playback, put a little bit of reverb, a little bit of EQ, and a little bit of compression on the vocals, as a dry vocal can often be fairly abrasive. There have been some times where I've recorded guitar parts, listened back, thought they were terrible, and only when I put on some effects realized I was totally fine with them. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it, another Sensei Q&A. If you want to get involved in a future one of these, make sure you follow me over on Instagram. And remember to check out the sponsor Skillshare using the 2-month free trial in the description. They really do offer a great product, and I'm sure you can find something that you'll enjoy. Thank you all for watching. To get caught up in the Sensei series, hit that link up there. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for a wide range of musical content. Until next time, I'm Samurai Guitarist, and I'll see you again soon.